Breakdown, ThePapare.com's weekly segment where we bring you end-to-end Sri Lankan rugby. And last week we brought you news about the two Sri Lankan teams taking the flight to Borneo Sevens. And this week we have very good news to bring to you. Sri Lankan women's team emerged the cup champions in the segments. Shanaka, great stride for women's rugby in Sri Lanka.
Fantastic, because I was watching them in the last tournament that we played here and they weren't great, Sudarshan, you have to be honest about it. They had a lot of things to brush up on, but we've got some outstanding flyers, Tanuja Virakodi in particular, who just can run around anybody on that 7th circuit, and it's nice to see that they've got the skills now which will put them, and the conditioning actually, to help them beat Thailand, who is a very competent women's team.
Absolutely. So credit should be given to the coach Sudat Sampath, the trainer Dilan Soisa, and also Imti Marika, who is the high performance director of Sri Lanka Rugby, who's looked over the team. The men's team were a little bit disappointing. They turned out to be plate runners up. First outing for Peter Woods, how did you think it went?
Well, as you said, Sudarshan, I think it was a little disappointing. I expected Sri Lanka to do better. You're not playing against fully fledged national sides either. So I thought that as a national team, they should have been in the cup championship at the very least. But it's a new team. It's a team with more combinations than different combinations than was under Matt Turner. So Peter Woods will also have to first find out how his team plays, what he's got to work with. So it's his first look at this team as well, so you've got to understand that. And now that he knows a little bit more about who the players are, what he's got, what their capabilities are, I think the next couple of tournaments should be better. They'll improve, but it's a starting point. That's all. That's pretty much all it was.
Let's hope Coach Woods will get his mojo right when it comes to the Hong Kong edition. It's going to be very important for Sri Lankan rugby. Let's move on to important business at hand. The school rugby 4th week concluded. We had some very interesting games. First game, 17th March, Wesley taking on Science at CRN FC. Wesley came out the winners, 36 points to 10.
Yeah, it was a good performance by Wesley once again. They'll be unhappy that they conceded a try, because that's something that I know that they're working on. They're working on keeping clean sheets. But nevertheless, after that debacle on the first day of the season for them, they've really come back strongly. They've beaten all the opposition that they've come across, especially that game against St. Thomas's with a comeback win. So this was a Wesley side that a lot of people were talking about before the tournament started. And despite that little blip on the first day against probably the best side in the tournament so far, they've played very, very well.
Absolutely. And let's talk about the two Lee brothers. They've been very instrumental for Wesley, and they're everywhere. They're scoring tries, they're creating tries. They're going to be very important going forward for Wesley.
Oh yeah, if one of them gets injured, then they have a problem, because they're just such fighters, Sudarshana, and that's what I really like about them. They never give up. They've got this attitude of nobody's going to bring me down, and they've got this kind of telepathy with each other as well. One of them looks back and they throw the pass, and they understand each other so well. So they're really talismanic to that team, and they're also very, very good players in their own right. Avanta has this outstanding step that he has, and he tackles hard as well, and Avishka from the base always seems to pick the correct option, and he's always a threat. So you're never going to have the fringe defenses taking their eyes off him, because they know that he can burn you through that middle. So that's something that both of them bring, and they bring that little X factor. A lot of coaches, when they don't know what to say about the player, they say he's an X factor player, and we have a few players like that, and these two guys definitely are.
So the full-time score stood 36 points to 10 in favor of Wesley, having led in the half-time 24 points to 3. Science College did try their best. They're a very young team. They are a team in the making.
Well, like we said last week as well, and we'll keep repeating this over the course of this season, Sudarshan, they've lost a lot of players, and they have to start from scratch again. They're not a team that has huge resources in terms of funding, or they've got a ground now, which is great. So they will have to start that feeder system going, and hopefully they will be able, when they lose these players, hopefully they can at least get compensated for that, so that they can make sure that their own cradle of rugby is not too diminished.
Moving on to the next game, Zahira College faced Prince of Wales. After 2 hard breaks, Zahira had a game to remember.
Oh yeah, 10 tries they scored, and I think that will give them some confidence as well, because they're a team that is almost there Sudarshan, they've just got a little bit of inexperience about them at the moment, which I think they will get better as the season goes on. But for now, against Prince of Wales, 64 points to 12, that's a really good win for Zaira. They didn't concede any tries either. And I know as a coach, Shamli will be looking at the fact that they didn't concede any tries rather than the fact that they scored 10. That's going to be the most important thing for him. And watch out, Wesley, this weekend.
Absolutely. Talking about Zahira, Zaid Singh Avansa and Yusra Lanta, both of them have 98 points just after 4 weeks between them. These two players are, like you said earlier, the X-factor players for Zahira.
Absolutely, they are just really very talented players. And when you looked at Singh Avansa, watching him against St Thomas's, when he managed to intercept a ball and run 90 meters to score at the other end without anyone being able to catch him, you know that that's just not fitness, that's not just conditioning, that's heart. And what this Zaira team brings to the park is a lot of heart. Even Lantra is not the biggest guy in the world, and the way he just manages to swerve around defenders, he's just got that hip sway, which is a natural thing that you can't coach, Sudarshan. So I'd love to see these guys go a lot further in Sri Lankan rugby.
Let's hope so. And Zaira College won the game with 10 tries and 7 conversions, gathering up 64 points against Prince of Wales, 12 points. Prince of Wales, on the other hand, will be happy that they at least got their kicker going. Taranga has been the highest point scorer. A lot to learn for the Cambrians.
Well, it is a step up for them, isn't it? And playing in the A division, it's never going to be easy. So these guys will learn, but I don't think we should do them the discredit of expecting too much. So they'll be lucky if they get a win this season.
18 March, the big game, arguably the best game of the concluded season. St. Peter's College halting the Green Machine.
Well, yes, I didn't expect that, to be honest, Sudarshana. And St. Peter's at their home ground, they look like they've done a lot of work over the course of the last week. They worked on their defense, and that was something that really let them down against Royal. But this time against Isipathana, that's what really won them the game. So even though it was 32 points to 15, keeping those Pathanians only to the first half 3 tries that they scored and managing to come back and keep them out for the rest of the game, I think that's where they won the match, despite the fact that they actually scored 32 points with 4 tries. Sivaraj also contributing 6 points from conversions and 6 points from penalties as well. So 12 points from him there, plus those 4 tries. I think St. Peter's have found their groove in that match. Can they maintain it consistently is the issue.
What was brilliant about the St. Peter's performance was that they put on 3 tries, 15 points at the start of the game. Pathana came back strong, 15 all was the score at halftime, and St. Peter's held their composure in the second half, and I thought Sivaraj was absolutely phenomenal, controlling the game with his territorial kicking and also the pace of the game.
Yeah, he's a very good player, Sudarshan. You need to give him a little bit of a free hand sometimes to read the game and play it in the way that he likes to play it. And sometimes when you overcoach players like that, then that's when things can start going wrong, because he's got a great boot. And what I noticed against Royal for St. Peter's is that they weren't using it at all. They were trying to run from their 22. But when you've got a guy who's on his home ground, who's got a phenomenally long boot and can put the ball anywhere he likes, you've got to use that. And that's what they did against Isipathana. Isipathana don't like to go backwards. They don't like to chase that ball backwards. And to be fair to them, they don't have the counter-attacking talent that they had last year with guys like Guy and Vikramaratne at the back. So they're missing a little bit of that running the ball back ability, which is what St. Peter's exploited. And they would have seen shades of Royal again. They scored early, allowed Pathana back into the game, and that's when halftime came at a good time for them, and they were like, okay, we need to go and stop this rot, and that's exactly what they did.
You did mention that they don't have the quality that they had last year with the likes of Gayan, with Vikramaratne missing, but Chamod Fernando dropping to the full-back position, he brings that quality to that Isipathana line. Yes, he is not very well supported, but they do have that quality in Harit Bandara and also Sumudu Rankodge. We haven't seen much of Sumudu this season. Maybe the captaincy weighing down on him.
Well, you could say that, Sudarshana, but the reason that Sumudu Rankodge was so outstanding last season, he's still a very good player, but the reason he was so outstanding last year was because Kushan Indunil used to put him into space. And everybody misses out on how good Kushan was in doing that, because he would always draw a couple of defenders and he had the basic skills to just put that little pop pass, short pass, long pass, offload, whatever it was, to Rankotke, who just had to run onto it and hit the gaps. So if your 12 is good, your 13 just has a field day. If your 12 is not as good, then your 13 has to do a lot more work. And Chamod Fernando, I think what really struck me last year was that he's a great finisher, but at the fullback position, what you're doing is mostly starting things off. And he needs to understand that role. So he needs to maybe hit a gap, put someone else into space, and then come around and support instead of trying to do it all himself, because you can't start and finish. Nobody's that good in this league. So that's where Isipathana probably need to find a few differences from where they were last year.
So there you go, the Bamba Brigade getting their first victory against Isipathana after 6 years. This final scoreline read 32 points to 15. St. Peter's with 4 tries, 3 conversions and 2 penalties against Isipathana's 3 tries. So kicking again has been a problem for Isipathana.
Yes, it was a problem last year as well, and they fixed that throughout the course of the season, and that's something that they're going to have to fix again, and which is what I don't really understand when you have such good off seasons that all these players go through. Surely as a coach you need to look at that resource and say, okay, I need to have kickers, I need to have guys who can convert, I need to have guys who can give me points from somewhere, and you need to start working on that way before the season starts, Sudarshana. So I'm a little surprised that Isipathana allowed themselves to go into a season without a quality kicker.
19th March, the other winners of the league, DSNRI College hosted Royal at Valisara, 47 points to 7. Royal running away with it again.
Yeah, and I expected that actually, because Royal were due a big win, and they've got it now, a 40-point win against a pretty strong DSI. When I say strong, I mean physically strong. They're not a team that rolls over. So I think Royal will be very happy with the fact that they managed to score 7 tries. Hamza Riza coming back into that lineup and carrying the ball very effectively for them. They missed him when he wasn't around, so that's something that Royal are going to have to look at to make sure that they keep all their players fit, that if they don't suffer injuries, then I think they're going to be a real handful for the other teams.
Absolutely. We spoke earlier about how Isipathana didn't have a very good kicker in them, but look at Royal. It was Sharik who was kicking earlier on in the game, but Nikhil George coming in and converting 6 tries.
Yeah, they've got depth, and Nikhil George looks like he can do anything. He plays fullback, he plays flanker, he jumps in the line out, he kicks conversions. I mean, what more do you want of this guy? He has been outstanding for his team. Such a team man, actually, the way he goes about his game. But a performance that I think Royal will be happy with. They couldn't have been happy with any of the other performances up to now, but this one they will definitely be happy with.
Absolutely, and Royal did need that, because coming on this week, they have a very big game against Isipathana, a wounded Pathana outfit. They're not going to be easy to beat.
No, they're not, and that Milroy Fernando Trophy is something that both these teams value quite a bit. So I think Royal, coming into this game, needed this win under their belt. They'll be confident now that they've scored 7 tries against the team, and Isipathana also, they're a team that comes back strongly. So let's wait and see how that goes. I'm really looking forward to that one.
Joe's taking on Dharmaraj. Plenty was said before the game, but St. Joseph's basically massacring Dharmaraj.
Yeah, I think they went into this with a good mindset. I think they knew that they're not going to allow what happened up in Bogambara to happen again, and they decided to take care of it through the scoreboard, and that's exactly what they did. 44 points to 10. Joes were also due a big game, Sudarshana. They've been promising a lot without really delivering in the lead up to this game. So I think against the Dharmaraj outfit, maybe for Royal, maybe for St. Joseph's, maybe for St. Peter's, this was the turning week where they find their groove. So let's see how those teams fare in the weeks going forward.
Coach Ibrahim must be a very happy man, finally getting his first victory of the season, but Dharmaraj was made to wait another week for their maiden victory. 44 points to 10 was the final score, with Joseph's getting 6 tries, 4 conversions and 2 penalties against Dharmaraj's solitary try, 1 conversion and 1 penalty. Final game of the week. St. Thomas is taking on Trinity for the Canon RS Diserum Trophy. It was bound to be a close affair. It didn't look like it was going to be a close affair in the first half, but second half, Thomians came out with grit.
Yes, the Lions, I think, after suffering that defeat in Pallekele last year, I think they had come out saying, okay, we're going to win this one and we're going to win it big. And at half-time, 19 points to nil, with St. Thomas's not starting, CJ Delisle, who's in hospital with dengue, unfortunately for him. Navin Henakankanamge starting with a stomach bug. He had to be taken off at half-time. But I think what happened there when Navin actually went off was that the rest of the team realized, okay, we've lost our best player, we've lost our captain, we need to lift our game by 10% each. And if 15 guys lift their game 10%, that's 150% that you're getting in addition to what you otherwise would have got. So Navin going off really didn't affect the game so much, Sudarshan, and that made me really happy from a Thomian point of view, because you're not relying on one player. And I think the Thomians have been doing that for a while. They've been relying on this one guy, and because he's been so good, they've thought, okay, he can finish off all these games for us. But the way they came back in that second half was really good, because at one point Trinity looked like they were just going to run away with it, and that was in the off the kickoff really, when Dange almost scored. And then for about 20 minutes, St. Thomas's exerted pressure, but Trinity just absorbed it and hit back hard, and they scored those tries. Maybe in about 15 minutes they scored those 3 tries. But St. Thomas's actually won the second half by 10 points to 14, so that's something that they will be proud about. But Trinity once again coming through a tough test, and it was a comfortable win in the end when you look at the scoreboard.
Absolutely, but as for the Thomians, credit should be given to the forwards, the heart they showed, like Shanaka mentioned. It was clear to see, even in the 70th minute, they weren't shy to counteract. They were putting their bodies on the line, and that's a performance that would have made Coach Laga very happy, because when you know that players have heart, there is only a little bit to do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. As you're talking about heart with Lantra and Singavansa as well a little earlier on the segment, and if you've got that, what they like to call Thomian grit, if you've got that, then everything else you can just build up alongside it. So this is a young team, this is a team that has one real big name in it. So this is a bunch of boys that's going to be there for a while, and I think Laga has realized that, and he's managing his expectations, keeping it realistic. But for Trinity, I think they will have to go back and think, did they make some right decisions? They had a couple of yellow cards as well. So in terms of a performance, despite the win, I think if they want to win this league after a 30-year break, I think if they want to win this league, then they really have to go back and patch up each of those mistakes that they made against St. Thomas's. They can't afford to think we've won a trophy and that's great. They have to go back and work hard.
For St. Thomas's, Hans Walpola looks like he's actually coming off edge, and he's very comfortable with the players that he is playing. However, Dion Dias playing in the win-3 position did look out of sorts.
He did look out of sorts, but to be fair to him, the distribution that he got was not great. A few balls near his bootlaces, balls that he had to go back and pick up from behind him. So we've talked a lot about him since that little performance against Wesley a couple of years ago. But the fact is that he hasn't lived up to that, Sudarshan, and I don't think we should be making him a better player than he is just because of that one performance. And well, I thought Jan de Soysa did well at the base. He's just a 15-year-old guy, and with Hans Walpola, I thought they were two of the best players for St. Thomas's. There was some quick ball coming. Walpola took some good decisions. He put players into space. It's not his fault that they could finish it.
And for Trinity, we thought that the number 12, Warren Veerakoon, coming in was absolutely brilliant, and every time he took the ball, he was running straight, and that's what you expect from your number 12.
He was just really good. Diluk Shadange gets all the praise, but Warren Veerakoon was absolutely outstanding for me on the day because he runs straight, he stands his defender up, then he goes weak shoulder, and then if he thinks that he can beat the next one, he sidesteps that person as well. He's beating 2 and 3 defenders every time, so just like Kushan Indunil was doing last year, he makes Dange look even better than he is, which is why Rankotke looked so good last year. When your 12 is good, that is the attacking fulcrum of that team, Sudarshan, and if Warren Veerakoon can be stopped, Trinity can be stopped. But with Boyagoda inside him, with Dange outside him, there's a lot of things for defenses to worry about.
Absolutely. So there you go. That's the wrap of the Scores Rugby League. But before we go, Shanak, I have a big question for you. Who do you think was the standout performer as a player in the concluded league? I have a name. I think it was Steven Sivaraj for me. For St. Peter's, he basically took that game by its collar. Who was the standout player for you?
Well, for me, from the games that I watched, because it was a tight game, because it was a game that needed to be won, I think Warren Veerakon for me was my player of the week, Sudarshana, because Steven Sivaraj was very good, and I think he pulls the strings really well. But for me, just watching that kind of power game from number 12 is just really a joy to watch. So it's six of one, half a dozen of another, but I think you had to put maybe Singawansa in the mix as well. But out of those three players, for me, I think Warren was just outstanding. It was a good display of skill.
So there you go. I part with Steven Sivaraj. Chanaka says Warren Veerakon. It's up to you to make up the decision. Do comment on this video of who you think was the most standout player of the concluded week. And that's it from us on the breakdown for the 4th week of Schools Rugby. Until next time, I'm Sudarshana P signing off alongside Chanaka Amarasinghe, sharing the passion.